we developed language, humans, around what time? Do you know?
You mean it from birth until later, or when it came in evolution?
In evolution.
I never know these things.
So, okay. So I looked it up.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, like, I think it's again debated, right? And we are pushing this further to a bit earlier times than we thought at first.
Yes.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's I mean, we can't know for sure because nobody had a recorder.
Right.
So what can you rely on? Some paintings, nobody really knows about word production, I guess, but
I guess not.
Must be writing then, something like that. But what I found interesting was, I think a few years ago, a researcher, Aldo Faisal, he's working at Imperial College London. And he's normally studying motor control and those types of parts. And what he was looking into the development of stone tools in the Paleolithic period, which is 2.6 million years ago. So I was thinking, what has that to do with anything? What are you talking about? And he was showing these images of these stone tools that were very primitive. And then he showed other periods of the Paleolithic period. It's more recent, which showed quite a big development in the complexity of the stone tool. So even if you just look at the stone itself, of how the pieces are being chipped, how the stone is being designed. Mm-hmm. Now, what does this have to do with movement? What they did is they taught people, like nowadays, normal humans, how to make these stone tools. So you have a stone, and then you just have another stone, and then you chip it away, and you have to learn how to do this. Mm-hmm. And while these people were doing these movements, he was recording those movement patterns, and he was using some fancy machine learning algorithms to dissect specific patterns of movement. Mm-hmm. He was looking at it from a perspective of a grammar. Is there maybe a movement grammar, an action grammar involved in this? And when he looked at the early ones, the grammar was very primitive. Mm-hmm. And when he looked at the more complicated ones, the grammar was much more elaborate. Mm-hmm. And what I just thought it was very fascinating. And it coincides with our increase in brain size as humans. Mm-hmm. And it also coincides with roughly the period where people say that's when we developed language. Do you think that, just maybe I'm going too far putting these two things in the same bucket, because one is motor and one is something else. Do you think, just to go one abstraction level higher, it has to do with our ability to abstract things, like in a grammar sense, that gave us the ability to actually develop language in the first place? Because
what you think you're doing with such a movement grammar is being able to abstract away from a certain thing. Yeah. So it's not like they couldn't produce those movements before. The muscles were there, right? But I guess the abstraction level from the conceptual perspective, right? And then the coinciding with a increase in brain size. But it could be something that gave rise to both, right?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. I think, like, once you start understanding that a certain shape leads to a certain type of cutting that has those consequences, then you're going to move more towards making the tool look that way rather than in another way.
Of course.
And maybe it's the ability to maybe plan and understand the consequences of a certain shape giving lead to this that will later give rise to that. That's the thing that enabled both the tools to become more complex and language to become what it is. I would say rather that, which it is boiling down to maybe the ability to create abstractions from certain things. But I don't think it's the motor skills that enabled us to do that.
No. I'm not talking about I'm not saying everything's motor.
Oops.
No worries. I'm not like that anymore. I remember I used to. But no, just from an abstraction perspective. It's just, I just thought this was, I just never thought really cool. I just never thought of movement as a grammar.
Right.
And already just looking at it from that perspective, like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like he was not, and it started to get more complex. It wasn't just this one movement that resulted in some type of muscle combination as a grammar, but a specific type of movement combinations that then, the abstraction became more and more. And just as we have with language and the concepts we have, I was just, I was blown away.
Yeah.
That was
cool.
insane. Yeah. But unfortunately, I have not seen that being published anywhere yet. Or maybe I just don't have access. I don't, you know how that goes with a paywall.
Right.